Alright, I'd like to make a video about the Romulan Warbird and why its weapons are so powerful and why I think they go ahead and I think they fit and they make sense in the Star Trek universe. And I will explain here why that is in just a moment. So the first thing is the ship here is the original Warbird. This is the Romulan bird of prey. And this is where it all starts from. So this was a small tactical sound vessel that had a cloaking device and had a plasma torpedo on it. The plasma torpedo had an enormous amount of power at close range, but it was inefficient at long range. So the ship could decloak, launch its weapon at close range, and obliterate a ship in one shot, or even a space station. It was incredibly strong. And so that's where I would say, the tactics of the Romulans come from, and why I think the Warbird in the future fits those tactics. So the next thing is I want to find out why they went from this to this. I mean, 1,300 meters, that's an enormous ship. It's twice the size of the Enterprise D Galaxy class starship, and it's 10 times the size of a standard Klingon ship. Why would you build a ship so big? It would take so much resources. Why would you do that? So, I'm going to give you some reasoning. A lot of people believe it's because they were trying to intimidate people. I don't think that makes a lot of sense with the way the Romulans behave. I don't believe that's the answer, and I'm going to explain why I don't think that's the answer here next. I think the reason why the ship is so big is because of the singularity device that's used to power it. I think that they probably have to use lots of different components or something of the nature to keep it stabilized, and it takes a lot of juice. The other thing is it uses disruptor banks or disruptor weapons that are 130,000 terawatts of damage. So they obviously have to have a big power source to do that, and I think that's another reason. I mean, the ship is only boasting 6 weapons, and those 6 weapons are delivering a large payload. The other reason I think the ship is as big as it is because the ship itself, the range of the weapons that the Romulans use are not very far ranged. I think they're around 10,000 kilometers. The ship is always seen attacking extremely close, and I think that its size is to try to compensate for that weakness, and also um, it's so dependent on the cloaking device. That's one of the reasons why I think this and why it fits is because your weapons are really strong, but you gotta decloak and you gotta, and if you miss or the enemy has a chance to react or there's more than one ship, you're in a lot of trouble. Especially if you're in a vessel that has no range. I mean, phasers have 110, 150,000 kilometers, and torpedoes are even further than that. And then some of the Cardassian weapons are 200,000. So this ship is super dependent on its cloaking device. I mean, it's a jack of all trades ship. I won't deny that. I mean, it can carry lots of troops. It's got a lot of scientific equipment. I mean, it can colonize something. It can bring lots of mines. I mean, it can do lots of stuff. It's just, I think the ship makes sense to me the way the Romulans like to fight. They want to be, you know, they want to do a hit and run. The ship's not really that great at, you know, battling, but in order to compensate, the ship's big and heavily armed. And so the reason I think that is in Deep Space Nine, the ship engages the home world, and then they're of the Dominion, and the Dominion Jem'Hadar fighters attack it. And so we see its shields go down after 20 shots, and then we see after that that the ship's still being hit. It's taking lots of damage. I mean, this ship has got a lot of armor, and it makes sense if you're slow and you don't have range, you got to be able to survive to get close to your enemy to get in range to use those weapons. And that makes a lot of sense if that's a limitation of your weapons and what you're doing and how you have to fight, you need to be able to sneak on your enemy. And then once you lose the, surprise attack, you got to be able to compensate for that. And so the heavy armor and the size is just, in my opinion, trying to compensate for the weaknesses of some of the Romulan technology. Unlike most of the races, they stuck to themselves for like 60 to 100 years. And so their technology stagnated to a certain point, in my opinion. I mean, this ship is great during the TNG era, but then once we get towards the, further, more advanced ships seen during the Dominion War, this ship is kind of a liability. I mean, you think about this. Look at a Sovereign class vessel. It's got Type X phaser or Type 2 or Type 12 phasers, which are 325,000 terawatts. And then this ship's still using these same weapons, 130,000 terawatts in that time period during those fights. Nothing really changed that much with the Romulans. The Federation's got extremely stronger. I mean, the shields on this ship are 1,300,000. Upgraded Galaxy classes are in the 3 million range, and then the Sovereign is probably around 6,000. We've seen the um, Defiant carry a shield matrix of 6 million when it was became the flagship of the Ninth Fleet. And the Romulans, I mean, think about it. This ship is incredibly huge, but has, an old level shield. And that's my opinion. I think the ship's great. I love it. It looks cool. But I think due to the limitations of the technology, it was forced to be big to compensate for its other weaknesses. And that's how I feel about the Romulans. This is Trek Wars. I hope you enjoyed my video.